Why does God keep repeating things over and over again? It's like he's nagging me like my mother. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Espresso with Sky, giving you a fresh perspective on faith, life, God, and the Bible. I'm Pastor Sky. Over here, my two sidekicks. Hope you guys are having an awesome week. If you haven't done so, hit the subscribe, like, whatever it is, all those crazy buttons. But the most important thing is leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your honest opinion on today's topic. If you want to support this ministry, we got PayPal and buymeacoffee.com. So let's get into it. The Bible is a mysterious and interesting book. And the more and more you read it, the more you notice interesting trends and events and occurrences. And many of you who've read the Bible multiple times will notice that God is someone that keeps repeating things and repeating themes. Now, what we know about God is not someone who does something for no reason. He has a purpose in every single thing he does. In his wisdom, all things are done for a specific reason. So here's the thing. Let's take a look at some things in the Bible that keep repeating. The first thing is numbers. Numbers are repeating everywhere in the Bible, and there's so many different numbers that repeat, but I'm going to focus just on the number 40 because we all know it. At the time of Noah and the flood, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, right? Israelites wandered the desert of Zin for 40 years. You had Goliath challenged Israel for 40 days before David defeated him. You had David, he reigned for 40 years. Solomon reigned for 40 years. Jonah preached in Nineveh for 40 days. 40 is everywhere and all over the Bible. The second thing is historical events that repeat. Now here's something very interesting, because when you look at the Bible, every 2,000 years, a significant figure comes out. So when you look at the Old Testament starting from Adam, the first 2,000 years was Adam to Noah, which is 1,600 years. And then Noah to Abraham, which is 400 years, and that's the first 2,000 years of the Old Testament. So 2,000 years after Adam, a major significant figure came, and that was Abraham, the father of faith. Then from Abraham, 2,000 years later is Jesus. It was 1,600 years from Abraham to Malachi, and then 400 years from Malachi to Jesus. Once again, the exact same repeating history. What happens? Jesus, the Messiah, comes 2,000 years later. So when we look at this, we're like, wow. So every 2,000 years, a major figure comes. And the last but not least, I'm going to give you reoccurring themes. And we'll just stick with the Abraham and Jesus theme. Now, what theme actually reoccurred in both of those times? Well, at the time of Abraham, in order for him to set the condition so that he becomes the father of faith, what was that major thing that he had to do? He had to sacrifice his son. Now, here's the interesting thing. 2,000 years later, what was the biggest thing that happened? God the Father also sacrificed his son. The theme keeps repeating over and over again. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at three major reasons why God keeps repeating things in history or thematically. The first reason why God keeps repeating things is because he doesn't change. He's always been the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So look at Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, and God literally says, I, the Lord your God, do not change. So some people might ask, well, what does God not changing have to do with repeating things? Well, whenever the laws or the rules are repeated, God doesn't change. He's not like, I like murder yesterday, but not today, but I'll like it again tomorrow. His mind doesn't change on that. When it's do not murder was 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and it's going to be today, and it's going to be 2,000 years later. Because he doesn't change, those rules keep repeating. Some people are saying, but what about the numbers? Why do numbers keep repeating? Now, this is a totally different topic. We'll talk about it on another video, but numbers have symbolic meanings. So if some event or occurrence is fitting of that number, he will keep using that number over and over again. And my hint to you guys is look at every time God used the number 40 and you'll begin to see, oh, this makes sense. This is why God uses the number 40 in all these instances. And of course, what about themes? Well, we have the theme of sacrifice at the time of Abraham and Jesus. Well, it's not just at those times. It was all throughout the Old Testament, all throughout the New Testament, that whenever there was sin, it requires some type of sacrifice. And yes, in the Old Testament, it was animals, But when we got to the New Testament time, it still required a sacrifice, but it was Jesus Christ, and it is our own bodies. As it says in the Bible, in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, that we need to become people who are living sacrifices. So that theme of sacrifice never changes. Why? Because God doesn't change. And this is why we're going to constantly see these repeating things. And that's the first reason. The second reason is it allows us to learn from our past. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 15, and it says, whatever is has already been, and whatever will be in the future has been before. Here's the key sentence, and God will call the past into account. And this is an amazing thing that can happen. Why? Because if it was bad in the past, it's still bad today. It repeats. And this is why we can study the Bible. The Bible's like this, 2,000-3,000 year old book, but why can we still study it today? It's because the rules have never changed. They just keep repeating. The themes keep repeating. So what do? We see what people did in the past, what was successful, what was unsuccessful, and we can learn from them and say, this is what I should be doing. I am so happy that God doesn't change. Like his basic principles, fundamental rules don't change. And this is why we today can learn from people who died 4, 5, 6,000 years ago. And we can say, wow, God, I'm learning from the past, and we can fix them today. And that's why number 2 is a really, really important thing. God repeating things, God staying the same means I can learn from my past mistakes. The third and final reason why God repeats himself is to know your future. So this is something that everyone's wanted to know. What is my future going to be like? Will I be blessed or not? Well, God repeats himself so we can know our future. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, and it says, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Just look at how people were blessed in the past, and you will know and guarantee your future to be blessed. How do I know your future is going to be blessed? If you love God. Okay? You love God, you follow his decrees and obey his commands, you're going to be blessed. That is 100% guarantee. If you don't want to be blessed, you do the exact opposite. So when we see this, like, oh, that's what my future is going to be like. That's the future of this world, the future of my country. You can see by what your country's doing. You can see by what your family's doing. You can see by what the world is doing, and you'll understand, that is the future for our country and for our world. Now, even more than just our own future or the country's future, let's talk about the one thing we're all waiting for. It's the Lord's second coming. How can I know about that future? Now, of course, there's prophecies in the Bible, and the interesting thing is there are prophecies for both the second coming and the first coming, and guess what? A lot of them are the same. Example, Isaiah chapter 66 verse 15 and 16 talks about destruction by fire for Jesus' first coming. And then in 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 10 to 13, once again, destruction by fire for the second coming. So the thing we have to understand is if we can figure out how it happened in the past, we can figure out how it's going to happen in the future. And this is a really exciting thing, right? Have you guys ever noticed why people were so crazy about the year 2000? Maybe Jesus would come back at that time. Well, think about it. It's repeating history. From Adam to Abraham, 2,000 years. Abraham to Jesus, 2,000 years. Jesus, 2,000 years later, we were expecting something to happen at that time. Why? Because of a repeating history. So people are going to say, well, nothing happened. Well, I'm going to tell you this one thing now is Jesus came to the Jews, and even the Jews today still say nothing happened. It's kind of a repeating history. Now, am I saying that something literally happened? Well, that's something that we have to think deeply about. Either way, I hope that these 3 reasons kind of gave you that, this is why God repeats things in the Bible, and this is why it's important for us to notice these themes, study them, not only for the past, for the present, but also for the future. All right? Everyone have a wonderful, amazing, and awesome day. We'll see you guys again next week. This is Pastor Sky for Espresso with Sky, and over here my 2 sidekicks. Everyone have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.